everyone, and welcome back to another lesson. In the last lesson, we talked about the while loop, and we were able to demonstrate how the while loop works in JavaScript. Now, very important thing to note about this loop is that each of the loop type has conditions that needs to be met before their conditions can be evaluated to true, which means that if your condition is wrong, it does not matter the type of loop that you are using. You will never get what you expect that you get as a result. But when your condition is right and your condition is well set up, you can be certain that every time your loop will always give you the right output. And that has been demonstrated with the for loop and the while loop, which are the two loops type that we have talked about and that we have examined in the past lesson. And also do not forget that each of the loop type that we have in JavaScript has use context, which means that it's not on every iterations that you use a for loop. There are different kind of loop types, as I've mentioned in the lesson that started use, and we are going to be examining each type of loop that we have in JavaScript, and also we will be talking about the context where they are useful. Why this is important is because of the fact that we have special iterations in JavaScript. For example, when you are trying to iterate over object elements or arrays or something like map or set. So those type of you know iteration, those type of iterations require special type of loop type, which we are going to also be examining in this series. So be rest assured that you pay attention to the context of where each of these can be used. The first one I will repeat it for a refresher is the for loop, that when the number of iteration is known, so for loop is a perfect fit in the context like that. And for while loop, when the conditions of your code needs to be when the condition of your code evaluates to true, then it's a context where you need it when the loop executes a block of code, and as long as that specified conditions evaluates to true, so that is a context where the while loop is best fit for use. Now, moving away from that, we are going to be talking about the do while loop in this example. Now, the do while loop is similar to the while loop, but guarantee that the code block will be executed at least once before the condition is checked. So, the do while loop, if you look at the name, it sounds like the while loop, other than the do that is present before the while loop. And then the difference between the two is that for while loop, loop will execute a block of code as long as a specified condition evaluates to true. If the condition does not evaluate to true, it will not even run at all. But as for do while loop guarantees that the code block will be executed at least once before the condition is checked, which means that even if the condition in the do while loop is wrong, it will still evaluate that code block once. It will execute it once before the condition set for it is checked. So let's take a look at an example, because the syntax of a do while loop look very similar to what we have for a while loop. And let's quickly look at an example of a do while loop, how to set it up and how it works in JavaScript. And we are going to even be making use of the examples that we've used for the previous one. So I'll start from here as well. But before, I want to change the topic. The do while loop executes a block of code once, even before the condition is checked. So now I can move on. So I have this as an empty string where I expect the output of my loop to be after the loop has run, and then I can set the condition, the initialization for what I have. So this does not necessary to be high. It can be J, it can be anything. So this is like the starting point of your loop. I'm moving away from this step. I can now put the condition that I want. So the do part is the body of your loop. So what do you want here? This is where I want the results to be. So I can just say, okay, this time around I want a break for the results that I want. I'll say the number is, then this will be plus the value that I expect. Now look at what I have here. You can see that I have not yet set the condition which will go inside the while. But inside the do part, this is where I can add the increment this way. And then once I've done that, then I can set the condition. And what is the condition? The condition will be I less than 10. And then I can say, okay, fine, let me get the output, the usual way document dot get element by ij dot inner dot html equals to text. And is there anything? No, which means that I've missed something. Yeah. So the increment is actually J. You know, I said this can be anything, it can be any letter. It doesn't necessarily mean to be high. But I is the most common that you see in most program, like a normal common convention, not because that is what everything must be, but because it's very, very common. So it's like a convention. So that's the issue. So you can see that when I change all these uh, conditions to the right letters, you can see. So look at the output. So this is how the do while loop also works in JavaScript. So take a look at this and we'll see the similarity between it and the while loop. Now, for do while loop as well, do not forget to increase the variable used, which is this J++ in the condition. Otherwise, the loop will never end, which will give you an endless loop and eventually crash your browser. So this condition, is very, very important, the increment part of your do while condition. So this is how do while loop works in JavaScript. I'll see you again in the next lesson as we talked about another special type of loop in JavaScript. Thank